Yeah, you're with DXB today. Thanks very much indeed for tuning in. A big focus for us this evening on all things gaming, the booming gaming industry, not just here in Dubai, not just here in the UAE, but across the region and of course further afield. And to that end, our next guest is on something of a mission to develop, fund and grow groundbreaking Web3 games and companies that will define the future of this space. It is a warm welcome to Domenik Maier, who joins us live here, CEO of iBLOXX. Thanks so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Tom, for having me.
Listen, let's talk iBLOXX, let's talk blockchain if we can. The gaming industry, as we mentioned there, has well established itself globally and especially here in the region over the years. It's moving, as we heard from Pac-Man, fast forward all the time. So how can blockchain impact it, take it to the next step as well? And what role is iBLOXX going to play?
I mean, I think in general, blockchain gaming will evolve in such a way that in 5 to 10 years, you will not talk about blockchain anymore. It will just be there. It will be natural, right? So I totally believe that this is where we're heading on. I feel like the benefits that are there, they're just too big to ignore, right? Too big to ignore for not just studios themselves, but also connecting with the gamers, right? Because blockchain games offer so many benefits in terms of connecting with the audience. I mean, as an example, you could literally say, imagine that you're not forced as a studio to charge and overcharge your users, and you can literally just let them have an asset, trade it on a marketplace, you charge a small fee, and you completely finance everything, right? Changes all, right? Like, because a player wants to be treated fairly, of course, while a studio still needs to generate revenues, and I think this is where you can find a really good balance.
I wanted to ask you about iBLOXX, so if you can just walk us through what you guys do for anyone that's watching.
Yeah. I mean, iBLOXX itself is a game development studio with a very strong background in quantitative finance and actually investments and derivatives trading. I think this is also clearly where we have an edge, because Web3 games get inherently more complex when you introduce the game economy itself. Game economies in traditional games are very complex in itself. It's incredibly difficult to balance a game. I think you know all about that. But the complexity increases significantly once you introduce tradable items, right? Because you have to be very careful that certain things cannot be drained from an economy point of view, and that everything makes sense. And this complexity is something where we feel like we have an edge.
I guess I would like to ask, like, what are some of the main challenges that you face as a game developer in Web3 gaming?
Yeah. I would say the challenges start top down. I think obviously you need to have a fantastic game, otherwise nothing will work, right? But in Web3, I think in the past, when you looked at the first gaming cycle in 2021 mainly, there were a lot of technological friction which in today's market will never work, right? If you have a user onboarding experience that starts with, okay, register here, now learn how to install a wallet, now gain a gas fee token that you can pay for transactions, you have lost. This will never work, right? You will never onboard. I mean, I don't think you will play a game where you need to learn about all of those things. You just want to play a fun game. Yes. And all of that stuff needs to be there automatically. So I think that's certainly one of the biggest challenges. Apart from that, probably regulatory, you know, like, because we are very fortunate here in the UAE to be in a regulatory environment which A, provides clarity and B, support, right? But that's not common practice out there. Now, of course, in the US with the new administration, this seems to be improving, but in general, it was very restrictive, right? And if you don't provide this clarity, you literally limit innovation, right? And this is what you don't want, right? So I think regulatory clarity is needed and is still, I mean, something that needs to be solved further. But this also goes further to the distribution itself, right? Because without regulatory clarity, you will not have these big distribution platforms. I mean, if you're launching a game on PC and you're not able to go on Steam, and Steam is very restrictive towards Web3, if Epic Games would have not stepped up with Epic Games Store to allow that and to support that, I think it would be a challenge for PC games, right? Now, iOS and Android are similar, you know, Google Play and Apple Play have similar restrictions, right? And you always need to make sure that you're always correctly within those policies and fully aligned. So I think distribution is another challenge to solve.
Well, Domenik, let's talk about the game, because I want to talk about Stray Shot from iBLOXX Studios. I've had a look at it. It seems like a shooter as far as I can tell. How is it different playing-wise? And also, can you actually earn money by playing it?
You can, yes.
Okay.
So how is it different from others? I mean, I feel like we first set out to say, okay, well, first we have to be in the same category as the traditional games, right? So I mentioned the user onboarding experience. We don't have those frictions, because if you don't provide these things, it's not going to work out, in my opinion. So in terms of gameplay-wise, we have a very interesting game loop, I would say, which circles around players leveling up, playing well. It's very skill-based, and you can acquire certain assets by purely playing. Right, and later on you can make these assets literally tradable and then list them on the marketplace. So this is something which certainly sets Stray Shot apart from other games.
All right, I'm actually interested in the gameplay itself. Is it a battle royale? Is it teams? Is it capture the flag? What is it?
It's very in-depth. We have a very long and varied game loop. So in our game you can play multiple TDM matches where capture the flags and others are included. The Battle Royale mode is there, of course, as well, which is the main mode, of course, we need. And our Battle Royale mode is actually a variation. So we have actually a hostage rescue, where you have to rescue a hostage, bring her to the safe house while fighting against all the other players in a Battle Royale style.
Wow.
And then the ultimate qualification every week is you qualify for the extraction shooter. Right? Because in the extraction shooter, you can then have the opportunity to, if you eliminate me, you can take my loot, right? You can take my weapon and my gun and my helmet, and that's probably quite exciting for many players.
Where you at with, Pac-Man was talking to us a little earlier about, we mentioned the word AI, and he was like, you know, jury's out for me on AI at the moment. Where are you at in terms of the influence AI will have moving forward?
I mean, AI was always there in games, right? Like every time when you play against an NPC, a non-playable character, it's mostly AI-based. If it's not, then the behavior will not be really good, right? But I think with the recent advancement in the last 18 months to 2 years, with NLP models that came out and significantly improved the whole landscape, right? I think nobody's still living in these times before ChatGPT now. It influenced everything, right? And I think for game development, it's fantastic because it levels the playing field more. You would not believe how much work we get done by leveraging AI in some sort of way, whether it be for certain concept art that we want to work on, whether it be world creation, animations, for example. I mean, it used to take one full-time animator 2 weeks to do a really good emote. Yeah. We can now do it in 30 minutes, right? By having an idea, making literally a video out of it with an actor, and then having AI software that does this whole animation, gets it to us in our gaming engine inside, and then we just do some polishing. Yeah. You know, we went from 2 weeks work of a really high quality emote to 30 minutes. I mean, and that levels the playing field a bit, right? And with Stray Shot specifically, I mean, we have no illusions. Our competitors are Call of Duty and PUBG and those big games, right? For a small gaming studio in Dubai, that's pretty ambitious. Yeah. But we're getting fantastic feedback from the community. So I think people will be very surprised when we go live in Q2 this year.